The skies tore open on a Tuesday. I was walking to the corner store, lost in my usual routine of dodging cracked sidewalks and tuning out the honks of impatient drivers. The air smelled like rain, though the forecast had promised a clear day. I glanced at my phone to check the weather app when a strange buzzing started soft at first, like a faint hum just beyond hearing. Then the world went dark. The sun vanished, swallowed by an enormous shadow. People around me froze, shielding their eyes as a blinding, unnatural light burst through the sky. I dropped my phone and looked up. Massive ships hung in the atmosphere, sleek and black, with glowing patterns that pulsed like veins. They defied gravity, floating without a sound. A low rumble rolled across the city as their undersides opened, releasing spires gleaming towers as tall as skyscrapers that speared down to the ground. When they landed, the earth shook violently. The nearest tower wasn't far, just a few blocks away. I stumbled against a parked car, my head spinning. Around me, people were screaming, running in every direction. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything went still. The towers were silent but alive, emitting waves of soft, rhythmic light. The vibrations buzzed through the air, sinking into my skin. I could feel it in my chest, in my bones, like some invisible force was reaching inside me, pulling at the edges of my mind. People stopped running. They stood motionless, their eyes locked on the towers, mouths slightly open. I looked around, panic clawing at my throat, but no one seemed to notice me. They were frozen in place, transfixed, like puppets with their strings cut. And then it happened. The world around me shifted. Colors became sharper, more vivid. I could see details I'd never noticed before: the cracks in the pavement, the individual hairs on the head of the man next to me, the faint energy radiating off the tower. And when I looked up at the ships, I could see inside them. Millions of aliens glowing, translucent beings with elongated limbs and luminescent eyes moved in perfect unison. Their bodies shimmered as though they were made of pure energy. And they were looking at us, watching, waiting. I turned to run, but my legs gave out and I collapsed. As my head hit the pavement, the last thing I saw was a surge of light from the nearest tower, swallowing the world whole. The next morning, I woke to chaos. I wasn't in my bed. I wasn't even in my apartment. I was lying in the middle of the street, surrounded by overturned cars and shattered glass. My head throbbed as I sat up, taking in the scene. The towers were still there, their silent pulses rippling across the city. The air felt wrong, thicker, heavier, like I was breathing something alien. People stumbled through the streets, their faces pale and haunted. The news played on a nearby TV inside a broken storefront. Words scrolled across the screen. Mass disappearances. Shifted reality. Alien technology. A reporter's shaky voice narrated images of empty cities, crumbling buildings, and strange phenomena. People were vanishing, reappearing miles away or not at all. They called it the shift. I stumbled toward the corner store, desperate for something familiar, something normal. The door was shattered, the shelves ransacked. I grabbed a water bottle from the floor, ignoring the shattered glass around it. My hands were shaking as I twisted off the cap. Then I saw it, a flicker in the corner of my eye. I turned, and there it was, me. An exact copy of myself stood a few feet away, staring back at me with wide, terrified eyes. My heart stopped. "What the—" I stammered, and so did it, mimicking my movements perfectly. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't even a shadow. It was me. I stepped forward, and so did it. I reached out a trembling hand, and just as I was about to touch it, the duplicate dissolved into thin air, like smoke caught in the wind. "What the hell is happening?" I whispered, my voice cracking. My hands were shaking harder now, the water bottle slipping from my grasp. I stumbled out of the store, the streets spinning around me. The towers loomed in the distance, their rhythmic pulses growing louder, stronger. My vision blurred as a wave of dizziness hit me, and I collapsed against a lamppost. The realization struck me like a freight train. The towers hadn't just done something to the world. They'd done something to me. And whatever it wasn't over. The drones arrived the next day. They were fast, silent, and merciless sleek machines the size of small cars, with glowing red optics and limbs that bristled with weapons. I was walking down an alley when I heard the faint hum behind me. Turning, I saw two drones hovering a few feet away, their optics locked onto me. "Citizen," a robotic voice crackled, cold and emotionless. "Submit for processing." My pulse skyrocketed. I didn't wait to find out what processing meant. I bolted. The drones gave chase, their engines roaring as they zipped through the narrow alley. I ducked and weaved, my breath coming in ragged gasps. A burst of energy zipped past my ear, hitting the brick wall beside me and leaving a smoking crater. My heart pounded. I was running out of options. The alley ended in a dead end. I turned to face the drones, my hands shaking. As they closed in, something inside me snapped. A surge of adrenaline or something more rushed through me, and before I realized what I was doing, I screamed. And then I multiplied. 3 perfect copies of me materialized out of thin air, their faces mirroring my terror. The drones hesitated for a fraction of a second, their optics flickering as they recalibrated. That was all I needed. "Go!" I shouted, and to my shock, my duplicates reacted instantly. One grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground and swung it at the nearest drone, while another tackled me out of the way of an incoming energy blast. The third sprinted down the alley, drawing the drone's attention. It wasn't enough. One by one, my copies vanished, disintegrating under the drone's weapons. I was next pinned against the wall, staring into the glowing red optics of my executioner. Then, a streak of golden light slammed into the drone, shattering it into pieces. A woman landed gracefully in front of me, her arms sprouting wings made of pure energy. With a flick of her wrist, she sent a pulse of golden light toward the second drone, blasting it into scrap metal. She turned to me, her piercing blue eyes narrowing. "You're one of us," she said. "Good. Get up, we're leaving." Before I could process what was happening, she grabbed my arm and took off, pulling me through the labyrinth of alleyways. We emerged into a hidden underground tunnel, where a group of people waited, men and women, each with powers as strange as mine. "This is the resistance," the woman said, her wings vanishing as she gestured around the room. "I'm Ava, and if you want to survive, you'll stick with us." Over the next week, I learned what we were up against. The resistance was small but determined, led by Marcus, a towering man with the ability to manipulate gravity. His presence was commanding, his voice steady as he explained our mission. "The towers aren't just here to watch us," he said during one of our strategy meetings. "They're changing the planet. If we don't stop them, Earth will become uninhabitable for us, but perfect for them." The plan was simple in theory, but impossible in practice. Infiltrate the towers and destroy their cores. The problem? No one had ever made it out alive. That didn't stop us from trying. Our first strike was at dawn. The tower loomed before us, its black surface shimmering with alien energy. Ava led the charge, her wings illuminating the pre-dawn gloom. Marcus and I followed, along with a small team of resistance fighters. The first obstacle was the drones. They swarmed us as we approached, their weapons lighting up the sky. Marcus raised a hand, and the air around us grew heavy as gravity shifted. The drones faltered, struggling to stay airborne. Ava tore through them with blinding speed, her energy wings slicing them apart. Inside the tower, the air shimmered with an eerie, otherworldly light. The walls were alive, pulsating with veins of glowing liquid. The structure was a maze of alien technology, its geometry defying logic. We fought our way through, encountering resistance at every turn. My duplicates proved invaluable, distracting drones and clearing paths while the others pushed forward. But the deeper we went, the more the tower seemed to fight back. The walls shifted, closing off passages and opening others. The air grew thicker, the vibrations stronger. Finally, we reached the core. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a massive pulsating organism suspended in the center of the chamber. Its translucent body glowed with a swirling energy, and its surface was covered in glowing eyes that blinked in unison. "This is it," Ava said, her voice trembling. "Destroy it, and the tower falls." Marcus nodded, stepping forward to unleash a gravity wave. But before he could, the core opened one massive eye, staring directly at me. A voice echoed in my mind, alien and ancient. "You are not ready." My vision blurred. The room spun. I heard Ava shouting, but her voice seemed distant, muffled. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was the core's massive eye, glowing brighter and brighter until it swallowed me whole. I woke to chaos. The core chamber was in ruins, its once glowing walls reduced to smoldering debris. My head throbbed, but I could feel something else, an overwhelming surge of energy coursing through me. Every nerve in my body felt alive, vibrating with a power I couldn't fully comprehend. Ava crouched over me, her face pale and streaked with soot. "You're awake," she said, her voice laced with urgency. "Whatever you did, it worked. The core is gone, but the tower, it's fighting back." I sat up, struggling to process her words. Around us, the remaining resistance fighters were locked in a desperate battle against the tower's defenses. Drones poured in through the shifting walls, their weapons blazing. The ground beneath us trembled, and cracks spread through the floor like spiderwebs. "I did that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "You didn't just destroy the core," Ava said, pulling me to my feet. "You obliterated it. The tower's collapsing, but it's not going quietly." Before I could respond, a drone lunged at us, its metallic claws slicing through the air. Instinctively, I raised my hand and a pulse of energy exploded outward. The drone disintegrated, its remains scattering like ash. Ava stared at me, her eyes wide. "What was that?" "I don't know," I admitted, my hand still tingling. "I didn't even think. It just happened." The realization hit me like a freight train. The core hadn't just been destroyed, it had done something to me. The energy it had radiated now pulsed through my veins, amplifying my powers to unimaginable levels. "Ava!" Marcus's voice boomed across the chamber. He was holding back a swarm of drones, a gravity field crackling around him. "We need to go." "Now?" "No," I said, stepping forward. The energy inside me burned brighter, like a fire I couldn't contain. "We finish this." I closed my eyes and focused, reaching deep into the well of power the core had left behind. When I opened them, my duplicates appeared not just 3 or 4, but dozens. They fanned out across the chamber, each one moving with precision and purpose. The drones didn't stand a chance. My duplicates tore through them with a ferocity I hadn't thought possible. Some wielded weapons pulled from the wreckage, while others used raw energy to obliterate everything in their path. The tide of the battle turned in an instant, the drones falling like leaves in a storm. But the tower wasn't done. The walls trembled violently, and a deafening roar echoed through the chamber. From the ceiling, a massive tendril-like appendage descended, its surface covered in glowing alien runes. It lashed out, smashing into the ground and sending shockwaves rippling through the room. "Go!" Marcus shouted, his voice strained as he struggled to hold the gravity field. "The tower's collapsing." "I can stop it," I said, stepping toward the tendril. "You don't have to," Ava started, but I cut her off. "Yes, I do." I summoned every ounce of energy I had, pouring it into my duplicates. Together, we charged the tendril, our combined force slamming into it like a tidal wave. The energy coursing through me grew stronger, hotter, until it felt like I would explode. With a final deafening roar, the tendril shattered and the tower began to crumble. The walls imploded, and the ground beneath us collapsed. I heard Ava scream my name as the world turned to fire and light. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke, I was lying in a field of ash. The sky above was clear, the alien ships gone. Ava and Marcus stood nearby, their faces etched with relief. "You did it," Ava said, helping me to my feet. "The tower's gone. They're all gone." I looked around, the enormity of what we'd accomplished sinking in. The resistance had won, but at what cost? The energy still burned within me, stronger than ever. I could feel it shifting, growing, as though the core's destruction had only been the beginning. Marcus approached, his expression grim. "This isn't over," he said. "The aliens will come back. And when they do, they'll come for you." I nodded, the weight of his words settling heavily on my shoulders. "Let them," I said, my voice steady. "I'll be ready." The towers were gone, but their legacy remained. The world had changed, and so had I. Whatever was coming next, I wasn't the same person I'd been before the shift. I was more, and I was ready to fight.